Don't get cocky, you high school graduate. Someone like you with that level of education has no place in our company. You low-tier girl.
Without regard for others watching, the man sneers openly. Still, Lily walked with a firm attitude, not looking back.
When I started, there were other new hires just like me, and at reception, they handed me my employee ID. But mine was the only one like this.
Lily shows me her employee badge. When I see it, I almost gasp out loud. In large letters, her badge says, High School Graduate. I know how much effort Lily put in to secure this job offer. Hello, John? Yes, I'm calling to cancel that $77 million contract. From the other end, I hear his panicked voice. The man stares at me, utterly baffled. It doesn't matter if he's a company heir or not. I have made up my mind to protect Lily's smile, no matter what. Even if it means dragging someone down to hell. My name is Rhea Wilson. I'm 45, running my own company. I live with my 21-year-old daughter, Lily. I'm married, but my husband is so free-spirited that I don't even know where he is or what he's up to half the time. The business I manage is a consulting firm, mainly focused on retail facilities. I took over from my father when he retired to pursue his dream of farming in Montana. Besides consulting, we also handle large-scale projects, manage events, and even produce entire retail spaces. My father was the founder and a visionary who built this company into a we-do-it-all firm thanks to his unstoppable energy. Recently, we've been working on a major year-round project involving a significant amount of money. This is all possible thanks to our reliable partner companies. I'm grateful every day for those around me, and I pour my heart into this job that I love.
You're becoming more and more like Grandpa, Mom. He was head over heels in love with his job too, right?
Lily said with a smile. I do think my father and I are similar. He also married my mom, a free spirit who's always jet-setting around the world. Both my dad and I believe that as long as our spouse is alive and well, it's all good, even if we don't always know where they are. Lily, it seems, has inherited this attitude from her dad, my husband. Back in the day, he was the kind of handsome guy who'd turn heads wherever he went. Lily especially takes after him around her eyes. With makeup, the resemblance isn't as strong, but as a kid, she looked just like him. Now Lily is already 21. She's at an age where she would normally be graduating college, but she never enrolled in the first place. In other words, she's a high school graduate. Even so, Lily worked hard on her own, and this year finally took the entrance exam for the company she'd always dreamed of joining. She could have chosen to work for my company, but she had told me,
Mom, I want to help out at your company eventually. But for now, I want to experience other things while I'm young. First, I want to join this company I admire and get some real experience.
she had made up her mind clearly. That stubbornness must have come from me. Unwavering in her beliefs, Lily took on the job application process. The company she wanted to work for, Cygnus Corporation, is one of the top real estate developers in the area. Nearly every major housing development and innovative building around here has been built by them. Lily, fascinated by architectural design from a young age, decided to apply there the moment she committed to finding a job. The company's policy of education optional, talent driven was a big motivator for her. I've known this company for years, and they've been our valuable client. With a trustworthy CEO in charge, I felt reassured and could fully support Lily through her job application process. And so, Lily passed the written exam and the assignment test. She finally cleared the final interview and secured her job offer. Lily, congratulations! The night we received the job's offer letter, we celebrated with Lily's favorite, fried chicken. And so, starting in April, Lily would be working at her dream company. Lily, are you heading out again today? You're really putting in the effort. Ever since she got the job offer, Lily had been going to the company almost every day until her start date. Even if she says she goes, she doesn't enter the office, but technically goes in front of the office.
That's right. Since I finally got in, there's no way I'd risk being late. So, I'm practicing my commute, preparing for any possible delay.
Lily is truly serious by nature. She's been using the time before her start date to simulate how long her commute would take if it rained or if the train was delayed, and planning alternative routes. Based on this, she's trying to calculate the time she'd need to avoid being late. She's already gathered data on different scenarios, like heavy rain, sudden storms, unexpected train delays, and even forgetting her train pass. Naturally, the best data would come from commuting during rush hour, but Lily explained.
I'd feel terrible if someone who really needed to get on the train couldn't because of me.
With this mindset, she'd been avoiding rush hour in her simulations. Even back in her school days, Lily used to say, "I don't want to make excuses for being late." She says it's natural to expect everything, and the excuse is the result of failing to prepare. Even though I was a mother, I thought it was hard to hear. For my part, my routine involves working from home in the morning, having lunch with Lily, and heading to the office in the afternoon. This arrangement allows me to take my time in the mornings and see her off.
All right, I'm off.
She said this and left the house, simulating a morning rush. During high school, Lily had achieved outstanding grades. She could have chosen any university she wanted but decided against attending altogether. Though she never mentioned it, I believe her choice was rooted in the bullying she faced from classmates. Lily gave serious thought to the value of school and chose not to go to college. As her mother, I respected her decision and trusted her judgment. Now, Lily has more smiles and seems genuinely happy. I want to protect that for her. If anyone tried to take that happiness away from her, I'd never forgive them. That's how precious Lily is to me. She is my most irreplaceable treasure. About 2 weeks into her morning commute simulations, Lily came home looking a bit down. She usually returned around 11 a.m., but today it was already past noon. I thought she might have been out shopping, but that didn't seem to be the case. Well, that's unusual. Did something happen? I casually asked, pretending not to notice anything unusual. Lily immediately forced a smile in my direction.
Sorry I'm late. It's nothing really. Let's get started on lunch.
With that, she sat at the dining table and dug into the sandwiches I had prepared.
Mom, your egg sandwiches are the best. So good.
She was back to her usual self, so I decided not to press further that day. But when this continued for a week, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Still, knowing Lily, she'd only say, It's nothing, if I asked. She'd always been like that. So this time, I decided to take matters into my own hands. At 8:30 a.m., right after Lily left the house, I headed out as well. The mornings are crowded. Even though she avoids rush hour, it's still pretty packed. As a wave of nostalgia washed over me, I also felt a deep appreciation for all those who commute by train every day. I could see why Lily thought this simulation was necessary. It looked like she got off one stop before her actual destination. This is probably Lily's own way of being strategic. It seems like a method that allows for a relaxed commute while incorporating some walking. After a 15 minutes walk, she arrived at her destination about 30 minutes early. As she reached the office, a large billboard on the building wall immediately caught her eye. This company is well known for featuring the model and influencer Harry Davidson in their advertisements. When Lily arrived at the company, she immediately stared at the billboard. It's the same at home. Every time he appears on TV, Lily watches him with an affectionate gaze, never looking away. Then, a man approached Lily. Noticing him, she quickly tried to walk away. I couldn't understand what was happening, so I listened in carefully.
Hey, here again today, huh? Trying to act like you're annoyed? But you really just came to see me, didn't you?
There was something so sleazy about his tone that I felt a slight wave of disgust. The man was dressed in an expensive suit with slightly overgrown dyed hair that gave him a flashy, almost arrogant look.
No, that's not it. Excuse me.
Lily tried to get away, but the man continued following her.
You're a Harry Davidson fan, aren't you? You're always staring at that sign. If you go out with me, I'll introduce you to him. Come on, stop playing hard to get.
When he reached out to touch Lily, I stepped in immediately, pulling her close. She's clearly not interested. Stop bothering her. The man looked startled by my sudden appearance. He looked at me, and in that brief moment, because I recognized him.
What the hell, lady? This is none of your business. Stay out of it.
Sorry, but I can't. I'm her mother. Now, if you'll excuse us. With my arm around Lily, I turned to leave.
Annoying. Get lost, you old hag.
I could hear him spewing insults behind us, but I ignored it and kept walking until we got home. Once there, I sat Lily on the couch and handed her a warm cup of tea to help her settle down. After a sip, she let out a deep sigh.
Mom, I'm sorry for making you worry.
With that, Lily started to explain what had happened. It began about a week ago. As she was doing her usual commute simulation and stopped in front of the billboard, the man from Today approached her.
Oh, are you with our company? Wow, we're lucky to have such a pretty girl working here.
No, I'm just starting in April. I was only checking the commute route. Excuse me.
Lily had sensed something off about him right away. It's hard to explain, but she instantly felt, I should avoid this guy. As her mom, I admit Lily has an exceptionally beautiful face. Her long blonde hair is something she takes care of daily, giving it a glossy, captivating look. With Lily's looks, it's not uncommon for men to approach her on the street. Most guys back off after being turned down once, but that man felt different right from the start.
It's hard to describe, but he had this overwhelming confidence. Like he was important or just full of himself.
Yes, I thought, Every one of those descriptors fits perfectly, and with good reason. That man is the son of the CEO of Cygnus Corporation, the company Lily's joining. His name is Zach, and I'd heard from the CEO before that he'd been sent abroad because of his poor behavior. It looks like he's back now, set loose again. Just before Lily's start date, a troublesome man had shown up. And unfortunately, he had fixated on her. Apparently, he had been harassing her almost daily over the past week. She thought about stopping her commute practice, but kept going every day, knowing I'd worry if she didn't. "Lily, stop going to the office in the morning. You should stay home until your first day," I told her, but Lily shook her head.
Thanks, Mom, but I'll go just one last time tomorrow. If he's connected to the company, I need to make things clear. Otherwise, I won't feel right starting there.
Lily really is serious to a fault. That strong sense of principles, she must have gotten it from her dad. With the condition that I'd be watching from a distance, I agreed to her final commute simulation. The next day, Lily went to the office as usual. I stayed nearby, hidden in the shadow of a nearby building, watching. When Lily stopped to look at Harry Davidson's billboard, Zach appeared. My heart skipped a beat when I saw him. Zach wasn't alone. He had a group of followers with him. They were all dressed in expensive suits like Zach, but their demeanor seemed a bit rough around the edges.
So, you're joining us in April, huh? Better be careful. If you don't play nice with me, you might have a rough time at the office. Trust me, it's in your best interest to just go out with me. Got it?
This was practically a threat. Maybe he's used this tactic to intimidate other women before. I could see why his father had sent him abroad. Now I wondered why he'd been allowed back.
Zach, I'm very sorry, but I cannot date you. I'll never be able to do so, and please understand. But when I join the company, I intend to fulfill my responsibilities with full dedication. I hope to achieve solid results through my work, so I'd appreciate your support.
With that, Lily bowed deeply to Zach. Then she turned and began to walk away. Zach's face twisted with frustration as he shouted at her, retreating back.
Don't get cocky, you high school graduate. I saw your resume. With that kind of education, don't even think about joining our company.
His entourage joined in, mocking her as well. But Lily kept walking, her posture strong and resolute. Seething with anger at such despicable behavior, I followed Lily down the subway stairs. Lily, the fact that the heir of the company you've dreamed of joining is like that, it's awful. Are you all right? On our way home, I asked Lily. She smiled brightly at me.
I'm fine, Mom. It's the company I admire, not him. Still, seeing how he acted, I might need to prepare myself for the possibility of my offer being revoked. If that happens, I'll just try again, so don't worry.
She sounded brave, but I knew how much effort she'd put in to secure this offer. The thought of her losing it over something like this was maddening. I considered reaching out to Zach's father, the CEO, directly, but I knew Lily wouldn't want that. Although I was deeply concerned, I decided to quietly watch how things played out. Thankfully, my worries turned out to be unnecessary. Up until today, the day before she started, her offer hadn't been withdrawn.
Maybe telling him off that day was the right move. Mom, I'm so sorry for making you worry. I'm fine now.
Lily said this as she tried on the suit she planned to wear to her orientation tomorrow. She must be really excited about starting her new job. Her voice sounds more upbeat than usual. I just hope Lily can safely join and thrive at her new job. Honey, wherever you are, you'd better be rooting for her too, all right? Looking at a photo of Lily with her father, I murmured to myself. I had no idea where he was, but I hoped he was always thinking of Lily. I'll be waiting at the cafe just down the street, so let's have lunch together after your orientation.
Got it? I'm off.
With an extra sunny smile, Lily headed to her dream company. Though nothing had happened so far, I couldn't shake off a sense of foreboding. Just in case, I decided to wait near the company. I must seem like an overprotective mom. First things first, let's get through the orientation without any issues. I thought I'd relax with a coffee and a good book while waiting for Lily, so I reached into my bag to take out a book. But then, I saw Lily, who I had just parted with, walking from the company toward the cafe. Lily? I checked my watch. Only 15 minutes had passed since we'd parted ways. When Lily came into the cafe, her eyes were red, and she looked frustrated. What happened, Lily? How's the company? I had her sit down and asked her to tell me what was going on.
There were a lot of new hires at reception, and they handed out our employee badges. Then, mine was the only one like this.
Lily showed me the employee badge she had been given. I almost gasped when I saw it, but managed to hold back. Hers had high school graduate printed in large letters.
I couldn't believe it, so I asked at the front desk, but they just told me, "This is your badge."
Despite her frustration, Lily had gone into the orientation room. Then, as part of the pre-ceremony presentation, that guy Zach took the mic.
To all our new hires, congratulations. You're lucky you get to work with me.
His words stirred up a lot of murmuring in the crowd, but Zach ignored it and kept talking.
You're all probably somewhat capable, I guess. Except for one of you, believe it or not, there's a high school graduate here. Can you imagine? A high school graduate in this day and age. Hey, high school girl, there's no way you'll make it in this company. What's all this about dedication to your responsibilities is? Get out of here before you slow us down.
With that, everyone's attention naturally shifted to Lily, the only one with high school graduate printed on her badge.
The room got so tense and noisy that I knew I had to leave, so I walked out.
Zach had chosen this moment to retaliate against Lily. The way he did it in front of so many new employees left me speechless.
Also, take a look at this.
Lily showed me her phone screen. It was a page from the social media platform that Lily often used. Alongside the post titled, "High School Grad Spotted at Major Company's Orientation," was a photo of Lily. Though her eyes were blurred out, anyone who knew her would recognize her. Adding insult to injury, hashtags like high school grad, rare specimen, and didn't go to college had been added. It was anonymous, but obviously Zach's doing. Even if this was revenge for her rejecting him, his tactics were petty and vile. Lily's red eyes weren't from crying. She was shaking with anger.
I will never forgive him.
Lily said with fierce resolve. She was right. I wouldn't forgive him either. Only a true devil would tear someone down for their own satisfaction. it doesn't matter if he's an heir. I've decided that I won't forgive anyone who takes away Lily's smile. Zach, you'll regret this. One way or another, I'd make him face consequences. After Zach's pathetic attempt at revenge, I wondered about Lily's status, so I called the company to check. They informed me that Lily was still scheduled to join, with her early departure from the ceremony noted as due to feeling unwell. I figured most of the staff at the ceremony were Zach's lackeys, and that his father, the CEO, probably had no idea what had happened. I thought about reporting this to the CEO, but I knew that merely getting Zach a scolding wouldn't satisfy my anger. I wanted to dig deeper into Zach's background and find a way to truly make an impact. The next day, Lily was preparing for her first day at work. Lily, are you sure you're okay? You don't have to push yourself.
I'm fine, really. Besides, I'm just glad I'm officially hired. Who knows what kind of harassment might come my way, though.
With that, Lily slipped on her suit jacket.
Mom, I'm heading out.
And with that, she was off to work. During a break, I decided to dig around online about Zach. There wasn't much information under his real name due to his family's prominence, but I found an interesting post on a message board. It described the young heir Z of a certain big company as a newbie killer. According to the article, Z hosts tasteless gatherings from time to time, inviting other heirs and heiresses. Officially, these gatherings are said to be discussions on the future of American businesses from the perspective of the next generation. In reality, these gatherings seem to serve as a place for crushing promising new employees. Z recently returned from an extended study abroad, so this year's newbie bashing is expected to be even more intense. Reading this, I was sure it was talking about Zach. If one of these gatherings was coming up, Lily could very well be a target. Today, I happen to need to meet with the CEO regarding that major project. Maybe I'll check in on things while I'm at the office. While getting ready to leave, my phone rang. Oh, that's unusual, I murmured, seeing the name on the screen. After answering with a casual greeting, I took the chance to mention something. Lily got her job, you know. Yes, at Cygnus. If you're back in the States, maybe give her a word of encouragement? That's what I said to Lily's father. When I arrived at the company, the CEO is busy with another visitor, unfortunately. Although I was concerned about Lily, it wasn't my place to wander around another company's premises. So, when the CEO's secretary brought me a drink, I asked her quietly. My daughter just joined as a new hire this year. She's in training now, right?
Oh, your daughter's name is?
She is Lily Wilson. When I said that, the secretary frowned slightly. Then she leaned in and whispered something to me. After hearing what she had to say, I hurried to a meeting room within the company, led by the secretary. Inside the room, there were tables and chairs arranged on either side where various heirs and heiresses sat. In the back stood their attendants and other followers, all watching. In the center, there was a single chair, currently occupied by a young man who seemed to be a new hire this year. Zach sat at the main table in front, surrounded by his entourage. It looked just like a courtroom. I slipped in among the others at the back to quietly observe. The young man was being subjected to what Zach called necessary questions, but they were more like an interrogation. When he struggled to answer, Zach berated him with harsh words.
Oh, so you joined without knowing that? Impressive guts. What trick did you pull to get in? Your chances of surviving here are close to 0%. Good luck, loser. Trash or scum? Either way, you might as well crawl back to the garbage where you belong.
As expected, Zach's behavior was juvenile. Earlier, the CO secretary had informed me, which is why I'd rushed over.
Lily was summoned to Zach's gathering.
According to the secretary, Zach's antics were all happening behind the CO's back. I had read about it in the article, but it is a terrible gathering. The heirs and heiresses mocked the new hires who couldn't answer well, laughing at them crudely. They rested on their unearned privileges, looking down on the new employees who had worked hard to climb up. This was a gathering as tasteless as I'd heard. Knowing Lily had been summoned here, I couldn't help but stay to witness it myself. Almost instinctively, I flipped on the voice recorder in my breast pocket. Finally, it was Lily's turn. She walked confidently and took the center seat.
Well, so the high school Grad showed up.
The room erupted in laughter. Still, Lily's expression didn't change.
Answer my questions accurately. If you can't, you'll leave this company immediately. Got it?
What authority Zach thought he had to say such things was beyond me. I wanted to jump out and intervene, but I held myself back for Lily's sake. I held my breath, waiting to see what kind of question Zach would ask. But it was one of Zach's followers who spoke up first. His question was in fluent Italian. Until now, all questions posed to the other new hires had been in English, showing just how fixated Zach was on making things difficult for Lily. It was clear he wanted to humiliate her. After the first question ended, another one quickly followed. This time, a different follower spoke up. The question was in Spanish. The follower spoke in slightly accented Spanish while addressing Lily. Zach seems determined to crush Lily. He's smirking as he watches her. The spectators in the room laughed, finding his antics a bit much.
Well, Lily Wilson, let's hear it. Answer precisely. You get what I'm saying, high school girl? As if you'd understand any of it.
Laughter erupted again. Sitting at the center, Lily let out a small sigh at Zach's juvenile attempt to humiliate her. It was Zach who didn't understand. He was in for a shock if he underestimated Lily. As laughter still filled the room, Lily rose, turned to the man who had questioned her in Italian, and began answering in perfect Italian.
What?
With flawless Italian pronunciation, Lily answered the lackey's question. Zach's eyes widened in disbelief. Next, she turned to the man who had spoken in Spanish and replied just as fluently in Spanish. At one point, the man who had questioned her in Italian tried to cut in, but Lily answered him calmly in Italian. The same went for the Spanish speaker. The three of them even got into a bit of friendly conversation, to the point of sharing a few laughs. Applause broke out from the back of the room. Perhaps there were some among the spectators who had also suffered under Zach. What's more, while Zach had usually questioned the new hires himself, he'd left it to his lackeys for Lily's test. His lack of fluency in Italian and Spanish had been exposed, doubling his humiliation.
Damn it. A high school Grad of all things.
Zach's face twisted in frustration. Lily may have been a high school graduate, but after graduating, she had spent 3 years traveling the world with her father. She'd visited Italian and Spanish-speaking countries many times and could also speak Chinese, Russian, and Korean. She might not have a college degree, but she had a mind that far surpassed that level. Incidentally, the question was, "Where's the best restaurant around here?" Thinking she wouldn't understand, they asked in Italian and Spanish. Humiliated in front of the other heirs and the crowd, Zach leaped over the table toward Lily.
Don't you dare mess with me.
I saw Zach raise his right hand. The fact that he'd go so far as to raise his hand against a woman. He was truly a disgrace. Without thinking, I jumped out of the spectators' area. And then,
Whoa, Mom.
I took the slap meant for Lily.
Ugh, you again, old hag. You're annoying.
Zach shouted when he saw me. Seeing the audience's eyes on him, he continued with even more arrogance.
Listen, just because you know a few foreign languages doesn't mean anything, okay? A high school grad is still low class, still bottom tier trash. And you, old lady, I'm about to be part of a $77 million project. $77 million. You can't even imagine that amount of money, can you?
He was trying to assert dominance, not just over me, but over everyone there. A kid who can't even handle foreign languages properly, yet is so eager to show off. With his smug, self-satisfied look, I decided to take him down a peg. Oh really? You're part of a $77 million project. I don't know how you're involved, but if that's true, it's bound to be a spectacular failure.
What?
Ignoring Zach's threatening demeanor, I took out my phone and made a call to a certain someone. Hello, John? Yes, go ahead and cancel the $77 million contract. The CEO's voice came through the line. Zach looked at me with utter confusion. Listen, Zach, you've picked the wrong person to mess with. The room fell silent. Within moments, hurried footsteps echoed from outside.
Rhea, what's going on? Cancel the $77 million contract. What does that mean?
The CEO, led by the secretary, entered with a panicked look. You'd better ask your son here, I replied, glancing at Zach. His once smug expression was now pale with fear.
This old hag is the CEO? You're involved in the $77 million projects? No way.
Fool, this company only got this big thanks to Rhea. This project wouldn't even be moving forward without her. You're clueless, running wild like this.
The CEO glared around the room. He shot each of the young heirs and heiresses a sharp look, chastising them.
You. The moment you returned to the US, you caused trouble again. I told you not to hold these gatherings anymore.
Zach looked down, humiliated. Even Zach couldn't argue in front of his father. To make matters worse, he'd been openly defying his father's wishes behind his back.
Anyway, Rhea is a major benefactor of this company. If you've disrespected her, apologize. And if you can't do that, leave.
Zach glared at Lily and me, frustration clear on his face. At that moment, a man poked his head in from the entrance, and a cheer went up from the crowd. There stood Harry Davidson, the model and influencer.
Oh, Harry, I apologize you had to witness this. Please, this way.
The CEO, flustered, turned toward him. But Harry only laughed, clearly amused.
No worries. Actually, I had some business here too.
Harry looked over at us. Zach took this as his moment. Zach thought he made eye contact with Harry and then shouted loudly to the audience in the room.
See? Harry Davidson came here to see me. Because of my connections, you all got to see Harry Davidson. Appreciate it. He'd never agree to work with anyone else. This company is amazing thanks to me. Show some gratitude, you commoners.
Wondering who the real fool is, I glanced at Harry's face. Harry smiled warmly as he looked at Zach and said,
Who are you?
With that, the entire room burst into laughter. This was practically a comedy sketch by now. Zach's face was beet red, his eyes brimming with tears. And he glared at Lily. But Lily didn't even notice Zach's glare. Her gaze was fixed straight on Harry Davidson.
Dad,
Lily ran up to Harry. Harry welcomed Lily with a warm smile.
Your mom told me to come and cheer you on, so here I am.
Everyone in the room was stunned, including Zach. He stood there, frozen, his face completely drained of color. As Harry gently patted Lily on the head, he said,
Lily, you did great. Let's keep working hard together.
Lily nodded enthusiastically. In front of her dad, she was just a girl. I let out a sigh of relief. Harry, always so free-spirited, was still the same. But he showed up when it mattered. It's likely no coincidence that Harry showed up at this event. He probably learned about Zach's misdeeds and returned because of it. Then again, if I asked him, he'd probably just shrug and say, it's just a coincidence. Turning to Zach, who was now a shell of his former self, I asked one last question. Anything you'd like to say, Zach? Zach shook his head. Even he, foolish as he was, had probably figured out by now that my influence had helped make Harry the company's spokesperson. At the CEO's command, Zach's lackeys stepped in to support him as he slumped down, barely able to stand.
Get him out of here. He's an eyesore.
And so Zach was escorted out of the room. As the crowd sat in tense silence, only one person seemed unaffected. Harry, smiling brightly, winked at me. So, how long are you planning to stay in the States this time? Harry, who was having dinner with us at home, answered my question.
Well, now that I got to see Lily, maybe a year or two. Yeah, maybe I'll stay for a while.
Hearing this, Lily, sitting next to him, happily looped her arm through his. The reason she'd wanted to join that company was to be close to her dad. She wanted to work hard at the same company where he made his mark. Harry probably secured work in the US during his recent discussion with the CEO. I sensed that the CEO was being considerate toward our family. I told the CEO about how Zach had been harassing Lily, including the issue with the high school graduate badge, the incident of being exposed on social media, and that awful gathering. I also had them listen to the audio recorded on the voice recorder. Furious, the CEO sent Zach back overseas. This time, it was uncertain when he'd return. And from what I heard, none of the other young heirs or heiresses defended him. They had seen his lack of intelligence and class for themselves. In truth, they'd never been friends with him in the first place. I also let the CEO know that I would continue the $77 million contract on the condition that Zach had no involvement in the project. The CEO naturally agreed. With Zach out of the country once again, there would be no more of those awful gatherings, and no more new hires would be crushed by their dreams. And of course, Lily would be safe.
Oh, you never know. Lily's cute, just like me, so there's plenty of danger out there.
Harry's doting side as a dad was pretty strong. Incidentally, the news that Harry, a public figure, had a wife and daughter made a small buzz. When a reporter asked him about it, Harry smiled and replied,
I'm 42, you know. It's hardly surprising I'd have a family. Besides, I haven't been hiding it, and I don't intend to.
His straightforward response seemed to be well received by the public. As for Lily, after everything that happened, she began drawing attention as the beautiful high school Grad talent. Fans started quietly growing on social media, partly because she was Harry's daughter. The CEO of Cygnus Corporation was rumored to be planning to feature Harry and Lily as a parent-child model duo at some point, though that remained a company secret.
Why don't we all go for a picnic tomorrow?
Lily nodded eagerly. I decided to wake up early and make plenty of egg sandwiches and fried chicken, both of their favorites.
Dad, Mom, I'm going to grab drinks. What would you like?
Under the bright blue sky, I sent Lily off for a quick errand, and she dashed away like a little kid. Lying on the picnic blanket, Harry watched her with an affectionate smile.
Rhea, thank you.
His sudden words of gratitude left me a bit puzzled.
Thank you for raising Lily into such a wonderful person. I'm so glad I married you, Rhea.
I couldn't help but feel a bit shy at Harry's smiling face. In the distance, Lily waved at us. Right now, I'm happy.
Could there be anything more uncomfortable than this? Sean, my boyfriend, proposed to me, and I came to his family's house with my dad to introduce ourselves. But as soon as we arrived, it was clear that we weren't exactly welcome.
Figures, some single-parent girl like you is probably just out to trap a guy.
Oh right, it's so obvious you're looking to marry into money. Maybe your deadbeat parent has a low-wage job? I'd actually prefer the mistress here. Oh wait, are you the mistress?
My gut feeling was right. There was Sean's dad, Sam, and his mom, Yvonne. Never did I imagine that people I just met would say things like this.
No, that's not true.
Sean hurriedly interrupted, his voice rising as he denied his parents' words, looking distressed by my piercing gaze. Fine. It's time to tell them. Sorry for the late introduction. Let me introduce my dad, the commissioner of the U.S. Police Department.
What?
I'm Amy's father, Isaac King.
Oh,
Well, thanks for the welcome. Do you get what I mean?
My dad, who had been sitting next to me, watching the conversation unfold, now looked directly at Sean's parents with a cold fury. The air instantly tightened, and the temperature dropped as if the room had turned to ice. Sean and I had met, as they say, at a casual dinner with friends.
My dad's actually a police officer.
Something about those words made me feel close to him, and soon we started dating. Since then, I'd often hear Sean bragging about his dad in law enforcement.
My family's been elite police officers for generations, and right now my dad's assigned to protect that senator.
Saying that, he pointed to a senator on the TV screen right in front of us.
Oh yeah, that's my dad.
Hey, aren't security detail officers supposed to keep that kind of inside information private, even from family?
What? Not at all. I've even met the senator's daughter.
What? Apparently, he'd been invited to one of the senator's parties, enjoyed dinner with her, and has even gone out with her several times since. And casually, Sean mentioned they're still seeing each other now. Why are you dating me if you're also meeting her one-on-one?
What? Why wouldn't I? I'm planning to marry her.
What? The moment I heard those words, my vision went black. When Sean's parents heard my dad introduce himself as the U.S. Police Commissioner, they froze for a moment. Then they burst into laughter.
Huh? Is this single dad losing it just because his daughter got played?
When someone like you realizes they're losing their chance at a high-status marriage, they'll start spouting ridiculous lies like the U.S. Police Commissioner, huh? I wouldn't know what people at the bottom think, though.
They seemed certain my dad was bluffing and didn't believe him at all. Then my dad reached into his chest pocket and pulled something out. He held up his police badge, which clearly read, the U.S. Police Commissioner.
I assume even you idiots can recognize a real commissioner's badge when you see one?
My dad's laugh, with that cold, unfeeling look, was chilling enough to make even me, his daughter, shiver. The three of them, caught in his direct gaze, turned pale and broke out in a cold sweat.
No way. You're really...
Be quiet. Wait a second. Are you really the commissioner? There must be some mistake.
Well then, why don't you take your phone there and search the U.S. Police Commissioner? You should see my face plastered all over as the current commissioner.
Honey,
Oh no.
At Yvonne's urging, Sam hurriedly grabbed his phone and began searching. Seconds later, the three of them stared at the screen, frozen.
By the way,
At my dad's sudden voice, all three of them flinched. Turning toward my dad with a look of trepidation, they listened as he spoke firmly.
yes, my daughter is from a single-parent family, but she's neither a gold digger nor looking for a quick marriage. You understand that much, right?
We're terribly sorry.
With Sam's overly loud apology, Sam and Yvonne also apologized.
My wife passed away a few years ago from illness. And though my family went through that hardship, in today's world, many single-parent families work hard despite all kinds of circumstances. Do you really think all these hardworking families are poor, that their kids only want to marry into money? Do you see them as people completely different from yourselves?
Well, that was just a figure of speech.
Oh, so you and your wife think it's acceptable to use figures of speech to say such vulgar things to someone you hardly know?
Well,
To you, I suppose, single-parent families are just beneath you and don't measure up to your so-called elite status, right? That's why you jump straight to calling her a girl trapping a guy without so much as a simple hello.
The quiet anger in my dad's voice seemed to hit them hard, and all three became speechless. But my dad clearly couldn't forgive people like them so easily. His words continued, sharp as ever.
As a police officer, you're supposed to understand people's words and actions, empathize with others' positions and feelings. Yet here you are, exposing your complete lack of professionalism in front of me. Aren't you embarrassed?
we're very sorry.
To avoid angering my dad any further, Sean's parents, especially Sam, deeply apologized, though I doubted how genuine it was.
And on what basis do you call yourself part of a police elite family anyway?
Excuse me? A police elite family?
Sean bragged about it to me when we first met at that dinner party. He said, "My family has been police elites for generations."
What? Sean actually said that?
generations. Sam here is the only one in the family who's even been in the police force.
At his parents' words, Sean looked away, clearly embarrassed. So, I take it you say things like this to impress women, don't you?
What?
Pretending to be from an elite police family to make yourself look good, huh? At least that's what my daughter heard.
Well, I mean,
The fact that you can't even deny it outright kind of says it all.
well, it's not really a lie, is it? My dad is part of the security detail for the senator. He's elite, so adding a little something about generations isn't that bad.
Sean said this nonchalantly, and we all let out a small sigh.
The concept of elite does not exist just because someone is a security detail officer. And beyond that, aren't you just a local public servant? Within the non-career track, a security detail chief may seem like the top, but around career officers in federal law enforcement, anyone claiming to be elite would just be laughed at.
At my dad's words, Sam's face turned beet red.
Above all, security officers aren't supposed to blab about their job to others. Most keep details of where they're going or who they're protecting confidential, even from their own families. Yet here your son is carelessly sharing it all with outsiders. Quite frankly, it's disgraceful.
We're very sorry.
Do you understand why your son ended up this way?
No, I don't.
It's about how you act at home.
What?
I'm sure you've been going on and on about your job at home, bragging that you're somehow special or elite among police officers, and putting down anyone who doesn't measure up, belittling them. That comment about a girl trapping a guy, it's clear that came from you. So of course, your son grew up hearing that and thought it was fine to go boasting to others.
Yes.
True elites don't feel the need to brag, no matter the field. Isn't my daughter a good example of that?
The three of them turned bright red and lowered their heads in embarrassment. In my family, not only is my dad the U.S. Police Commissioner, but both of my grandfathers also held high-ranking positions in law enforcement. My parents met thanks to their fathers, who were colleagues and friends in their careers. If we trace back, several of my relatives held or currently hold respectable positions in law enforcement. If anything, we're truly what you call a police elite family. Growing up seeing my father and those around me, I probably developed a natural inclination to admire men in law enforcement. In fact, part of what drew me to Sean was the sense of connection I felt because his dad was also a police officer. It's incredible how deeply ingrained things can be. Had Sean not boasted about that, I might not have felt attracted to him in the first place. Reflecting on this, I felt a bit cheapened, as if my feelings were somehow superficial, and that led me to feel a bit down on myself. My dad must have noticed the slight change in my expression. After clearing his throat, he turned back to the three of them.
Well, now that we all understand each other's positions, I'd like to continue our conversation. What was all that talk earlier about mistresses?
What?
You mentioned something about prefer a mistress or something, and then you even said my daughter was a mistress, didn't you? What was that all about?
Well,
Before Yvonne could answer, Sam jumped in quickly.
No, the mistress thing was just a figure of speech. Amy already knows this, right? The senator I protect has taken a liking to my son, so he keeps insisting he attend parties. And he keeps getting invited. Honestly, it's a little overwhelming.
But when I asked him why he was meeting her one-on-one, he flat out told me, "Why shouldn't I? I plan to marry her." At those words, all three of them went pale.
No, You're mistaken. That was just a joke. A joke, really. I was just trying to see how you felt. You know, get you a little jealous to see if you really cared about me.
You try to confirm someone's feelings with a line like that. Unlike you, I don't even meet up with male friends alone, and I hardly ever go out with the girls. What exactly were you trying to confirm?
Well, I guess that's true.
Mumbling and failing to make himself clear, Sean was cut off by my dad, who asked directly.
Are you the type of person who jokes about making personal visits to the senator's residence?
What?
It's not just you. All three of you have been making personal visits to the senator's home. Care to explain the nature of your relationship?
No, that's a misunderstanding. I only go to the senator's house for work.
Oh, so you do this work in plain clothes?
What?
You show up in plain clothes with your family in tow while supposedly acting as security detail.
Well, that is.
Enough with the poor excuses. You clearly have a private relationship with the senator. And as for your son, that comment about marrying the senator's daughter wasn't a joke. We're also aware Sean has stayed at the senator's residence multiple times.
What? How did you?
As the three of them looked shocked, my dad spread a few photographs across the table. In the photos, all three of them were captured entering and leaving the senator's residence in plain clothes, with one photo showing Sean walking out of the house alongside the senator's daughter.
What is this?
Wait, is this surveillance?
It's a clear picture, isn't it? Here, you can even see Sean and the senator's daughter in detail.
How did this happen?
I had no idea.
The two men stared at the photos in disbelief. However, Yvonne had a different reaction.
Just because you're the police commissioner, you think it's fine to take hidden photos? There are things you can and can't do. Depending on the situation, this could be considered misconduct.
Hey, Ivan.
But it's true. So what if he's the police commissioner? This is an invasion of privacy.
Yvonne, clearly angered by the photos, lashed out at my dad without restraint. Sam, flustered, tried to calm her down, but Yvonne's outrage only grew. And she even threatened to take legal action. My dad remained calm as he watched her.
Then, would you like to file a lawsuit?
What?
If you want to sue, go right ahead. But if that's an invasion of privacy, then what Amy and I experienced from your insults was a complete character assassination, wasn't it?
We didn't expect to be spoken to so cruelly by people we just met. It was deeply hurtful and utterly false. Would it be acceptable if we filed a suit for defamation on those grounds? Yvonne, feeling cornered, bit her lip and took a sharp breath.
Furthermore, we have a legitimate reason for these actions, and it's not about trivial matters.
What? A legitimate reason? There's no such thing when it comes to secret surveillance.
So, you're saying that if you were investigated, nothing shady would come up? You're absolutely clean then?
My dad's tone was deliberate and strong. The two men, and even Yvonne, hesitated to respond. Noticing their reaction, my dad gave a slight smile and continued.
You see, the senator you're protecting, Mr. Johnson, was once a junior colleague of my brother. They still keep in touch.
Your brother.
Yes, although he isn't a police officer himself. My brother works in the judicial field, and he mentioned hearing a rumor about Mr. Johnson's daughter. He asked me, "Did you know the senator's daughter is supposedly engaged to the son of a security detail officer?"
What?
Well, being in the police department, I naturally don't know the personal lives of every officer in other branches, but I do know which security officers are assigned to certain senators.
Wait, is that true?
Let's just say there are certain behind-the-scenes matters that we're aware of.
I see.
It seemed quite surprising that the daughter of a senator would be engaged to the son of a non-career track security officer. It left a strong impression.
Excuse me, isn't that rather rude?
Yvonne snapped back, offended by my dad's choice of words. But he gently waved her off with a slight laugh.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, it might be rude. But you understand, don't you? A local officer who's far from being an elite paired with the senator's daughter?
You don't have to say so clearly.
So I began to suspect there was something behind this, which is why I started investigating the connection between you and the senator.
Hearing this, Sam suddenly looked at my dad with a hint of realization. Noticing Sam's gaze, my dad's mouth curled into a slight smile.
Are you suggesting these photos are?
Yes, I wasn't investigating Sean's affairs. My focus was the connection between you and the senator. These photos were gathered as part of that investigation.
His relaxed tone seemed to carry a subtle, unsettling power. Sam looked down, his fingers trembling slightly as he processed the situation. Watching him, my dad shifted the topic with a casual question.
By the way, you drive a nice car, don't you?
Sam, looking up in surprise, showed a slight look of relief.
Oh, yes, thank you. I recently bought a new one.
It must have been pricey, right?
Well, yes, it wasn't cheap.
Did you reserve it in advance?
No, I just happened to like it and bought it on the spot.
Hearing this, my dad raised an eyebrow ever so slightly.
Interesting. It's a high-end model from a luxury brand that just launched last month. Limited production, and there's currently about a 6-month waiting list. Even as a preferred customer, I couldn't have gotten one without reserving it well before the release. And yet, you just happened to like it and bought it right away. Care to explain that?
What?
Actually, I visited Mr. Johnson's home recently, and the exact same car was parked in his garage.
And what about it?
He's been the Secretary of Transportation for years, and before that, he was in the Department of Transportation. Not to imply anything, but he surely has deep connections with manufacturers. Can you explain what this suggests?
With that, my dad placed another set of photos on the table. In these photos, Sam and Mr. Johnson were standing in the senator's large open garage, talking with two other men in front of two luxury cars. Sam's face tightened as he broke into a sweat, his fingers trembling once more.
Explain yourself.
My dad's voice was low and commanding. Sam opened his mouth, attempting to speak, but his voice caught in his throat, producing nothing but a faint, strained sound out of sheer fear.
Are you really a security officer with the U.S. Police Department? Have you no pride as a police officer?
Startled by my dad's outburst, everyone in the room flinched. At the same moment, Sam shouted, "I'm sorry," as he apologized deeply.
What exactly are you apologizing for?
For everything.
Everything? Be specific.
For all of my actions.
That's what I'm asking you to explain.
I'm sorry.
Pulled in by my dad's strong tone, Sam responded loudly. He was completely at my dad's mercy.
Explain these photos in your own words.
Yes.
After taking a breath as if steeling himself, Sam began to speak.
I've been assigned to Mr. Johnson for about 3 years now. Of course, my work is entirely focused on protecting him, but during breaks, we began to chat casually. Given our similar age, we grew closer. In fact, we're on friendly terms outside of work, and it's true that our children's engagement has been discussed.
I see. Go on.
As for the car, we were both considering buying one, so we looked at catalogs together, and sometimes I'd accompany him to the dealership as part of my security duties. I found a car I liked, but was told there'd be a 6-month wait from the manufacturer. I was fine with waiting, or even considering a different model, but then Mr. Johnson said, "Leave it to me."
So you left it to him?
Yes, as a mere officer, there was nothing I could do anyway. Following his guidance, everything was arranged, and I got the car. When Mr. Johnson called me over to his house, I arrived to find the 2 cars in the garage, just as shown in the photos, delivered by dealership staff.
Sam let out a long breath. After pausing thoughtfully, my dad asked Sam another question.
Do you know the price of that car?
I believe it was close to $400,000.
Right? You can't afford that amount, can you?
Well, actually, the payment.
You didn't make it. Or rather, you couldn't, right?
What?
A person who has declared bankruptcy can't take out loans, can they? Furthermore, a police officer who declared bankruptcy a few years ago wouldn't be able to pay $400,000 in cash either.
How do you know that?
Sam cried out in surprise. Beside him, Yvonne and Sean were frozen in shock, likely unaware of his bankruptcy. They seemed at a loss for words.
Why are you so surprised now? I did tell you I was looking into your connection with the senator, didn't I?
Yes, you did mention that, but
Your home has always been a rental. Your cars were modest. And once Sean got his job, you bought the car under his own name. Your credit history was in ruins long before the bankruptcy. You couldn't get a loan, nor hold a credit card. You were buried under debt and eventually declared bankruptcy. So now you can't get a loan. And since you couldn't pay $400,000 in cash either, how exactly did you afford that car?
Cornered by my dad's line of questioning, Sam fell silent, his face twisted in discomfort. According to my dad, Sam's debt had been caused by gambling. Due to the nature of police work, stress is not uncommon. Especially for security detail officers, the job is a constant stream of tension. As a result, they need an outlet in their personal lives to relieve that stress. Sam's way of relieving stress turned out to be gambling. A former colleague of Sam's explained that at first, it was just a small indulgence. However, as Sam's assignments began to involve high-profile figures, along with his responsibilities to train juniors, his stress grew, and so did his dependence on gambling. Starting with horse racing, he moved on to boat racing, cycling bets, and even slot machines. Eventually, he was gambling on nearly anything.
So when you asked me to handle the family car, it was because
Since he couldn't take out a loan or make the payments himself, he turned to you for help.
Sean seemed to accept this in shocked understanding. But Yvonne was far from composed.
I had no idea, not a single clue. Are you saying we have no money? Why didn't you talk to me about this?
I'm sorry. I was too ashamed to bring it up.
Ashamed. We could have ended up homeless. We're the ones who look like thieves.
Yvonne turned on Sam, her voice filled with resentment. Then my dad spoke up.
You're not entirely off the mark there.
The three of them looked at him in confusion. In response, my dad met their gazes with a serious look and continued plainly.
You haven't just received a car from Mr. Johnson. You've been taking money and favors from him all along.
Sam closed his eyes, his head falling back, while Yvonne and Sean looked even more stunned. Clearly, they had no idea, just like with the bankruptcy.
What do you mean?
Just as I said, he manipulated favors from Mr. Johnson, gaining cash and gifts, all while pushing for a marriage between Sean and the senator's daughter to secure a family connection the senator couldn't escape.
What?
Manipulating favors, you mean?
He, even a police officer, was aiding Mr. Johnson in his misconduct.
Misconduct?
What does that mean?
The room's atmosphere grew heavy. Mr. Johnson had always been known for his aggressive approach in politics. By leveraging money and power, he pushed through his agenda. When conflicts arose, he wasn't above paying off or crushing his opposition. This strategy, while ethically questionable, had strengthened his party, leading them to turn a blind eye. But as Mr. Johnson's political influence grew, so did his boldness, and recently, members within his own party and opposing parties began openly criticizing his tactics.
So, to cover all of this up, he used you.
What?
Sam might be one of the top officers in the non-career track, which gave him enough authority to coordinate with other departments. Mr. Johnson used that to have Sam bury the issues he created.
It was appalling.
In return for handling those matters, my dad received money and gifts from the senator.
Exactly. Since being assigned to Mr. Johnson, your family's lifestyle has changed, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
That's because he's been receiving regular gifts from the senator. The watch on his wrist, the luxury car, the high-end furniture, the golf set. None of it fits the profile of a bankrupt renter.
Indeed, the house had an odd array of mismatched luxury items, creating a sense of unease that was now explained by my dad's words.
And as I mentioned, even the engagement between you and the senator's daughter was part of it. Sam earned favors by covering up her scandals too.
What?
It seems the daughter has a rather wild side, often engaging in behavior that, if exposed, would jeopardize Mr. Johnson's career.
No way. I never saw her that way.
These cover-upas were more than a one-time occurrence. Each time her actions threatened Mr. Johnson's political career, and each time he called on Sam to make it disappear. To both Mr. Johnson and his daughter, Sam is practically a lifesaver. She had no choice but to comply with his wishes, which led to the engagement.
But why marriage?
Was Sean serious? Sam looked at him with mild disappointment.
If the children married, Mr. Johnson would be bound to Sam as family. Sam likely thought it would secure him in a way Mr. Johnson couldn't easily escape from. Mr. Johnson may have realized his Achilles' heel lay with Sam, but he kept granting him favors to keep him quiet.
Hearing this, Sean looked at me apologetically and said, "Amy, I'm so sorry. I was so happy, then out of nowhere, you calmly mentioned marrying someone else. I honestly felt like I wanted to disappear."
I'm sorry. I truly am.
Hearing Sean apologize like this for the first time, tears began to fall. Accepting the truth, Sean turned back to my dad with one more question.
So, The car was really something my dad requested?
Exactly. That car was his dream vehicle. He didn't decide on it with the senator. He pressured him to get it. Using his position as Secretary of Transportation, the senator pushed the manufacturer to provide two ultra-luxury cars at no cost.
What? Free of charge?
That's impossible.
Sean's shock was understandable. No one would ever get two cars worth close to $400,000 each, free of charge, without some serious strings attached.
Could it be there's also something going on between that manufacturer and Mr. Johnson?
Oh, now you're finally getting it?
What?
Well, no matter. That's between the senator and the manufacturer. It's best not to discuss that here. Regardless, Sam and Mr. Johnson share a shady connection, and your lifestyle has benefited from it. There was never an elite police family, just a hollow facade built on his dirty deeds.
As my dad spoke, all three of them slumped, with Yvonne crying quietly.
Amy, let's go.
At my dad's prompting, I stood up. Sam watched us with a vacant expression.
Officers from the police department will be here soon.
What?
I know it's hard dealing with family, but as your police commissioner, I strongly advise you to cooperate fully before this becomes a full-blown investigation.
Goodbye, Sean. Leaving those words behind, I walked out of Sean's house. Afterward, the three of them were taken into police custody for investigation. Yvonne and Sean, who were unaware of the details, were eventually allowed to return home, having merely been caught up in Sam's actions. Sam, however, was arrested and detained for questioning. As for Mr. Johnson, he was later brought in by the police and, after questioning, was arrested as well. The investigation uncovered further issues, including backdoor deals between the senator, the manufacturer, and questionable funds. It turned out that Sam couldn't have orchestrated such extensive cover use alone, and more names of internal collaborators were coming to light. Of course, Sam was forced to resign from the police, and the senator stepped down from his position. My dad believes the senator will soon have to resign from Congress as well. I never imagined that Sean's affair would lead to such an implosion of his family. The whole thing ended before I even had a chance to feel hurt. Afterward, Sean occasionally reached out with messages hinting at reconciliation. It's clear he's interested in my family's background.
Seems like he missed his shot at marrying a good-looking guy, but he lost his jobs over that nonsense.
Hey, stop it. I'm already disappointed enough in my judgment. It's true. Sean was definitely at fault. But this experience made me reflect on my own issues. In the end, it was my own judgment.
Amy,
What?
choose a man like me, okay?
What's that supposed to mean?
Just saying. Your mom seemed pretty happy, didn't she?
As he said this, my dad looked fondly at the picture of my mom, smiling in her photo on the table. Yes, he was right about that. Through this whole ordeal, my dad had been a tremendous support. His presence, his unwavering strength, and his dignity were something I couldn't help but admire, not just as his daughter, but as a person. Dad,
What's up?
thank you. I smiled at my mom's picture, just as she smiled back.
Lauren is pregnant. Let's get divorced.
Here's the divorce papers. I'm quitting caregiving. Justin made this shocking statement to me, who was taking care of his mom alone. However, I didn't even bat an eye at his words. In fact, I obediently handed him the prepared divorce papers.
What? Keep caring for my mom.
No way, because Lauren is. Justin was bewildered by my calm response. I then revealed Lauren's secret to him. My name is Nancy White. I've been married to Justin for 5 years. Now I'm considering divorcing him. What triggered this thought was Justin taking his phone to the bathroom. He used to be indifferent to messages from others, but recently he's been clinging to his phone. Even during meals, he places his phone on the table and sneaks it with him when he leaves the room. The beginning of my suspicion was when he, who had no interest in mobile games or apps, suddenly started behaving like this. When we first got married, there was no sign of cheating at all. When we were dating, he seemed like the most serious guy, someone who would never cheat, which is why I married him. I never imagined I would ever doubt him like this. Another reason I decided to marry him was because his workplace was almost entirely male. He's not bad looking, so if there had been female employees, I might have suspected he would cheat. But the only women at his workplace were a few older employees. Most of them were in their late 50s, much older than us. It seemed unlikely that Justin would be interested in them. If anyone, it would be my sister, Lauren. When I was in elementary school, my mom remarried and we started living with my stepdad and Lauren. She is my stepdad's daughter, and we never got along. Lauren always had a queen bee attitude and treated me poorly. There was a time when the house was full of tension because I stood up to her. However, she was very charming and had a talent for wrapping men around her finger. My stepdad never questioned anything she said, and my mom adored him so much that there wasn't a single person in the house who sided with me. Lauren would do anything to make herself look good. She didn't care if she treated her sister like dirt or used her like an old rag, as long as she was satisfied. She couldn't care less what happened afterward. That's just the kind of person she was. As someone who tried to empathize with others' pain, I was fed up with her tyranny.
Lauren must be lonely because she doesn't have any siblings, so she's probably just relying on you. Forgive her. One day, she'll realize your kindness.
Whenever I complained about Lauren to my mom, she always persuaded me to put up with it. My mom adored my stepdad completely. She was so in love with him that she couldn't see anything else, and he took advantage of this to have affairs with multiple women. As a salesperson at an IT company, he was on business trips most of the year. He was rarely home. So, no matter what he did, my mom never noticed. She believed that she was loved by him and trusted him completely. I started to sense something was off with my stepdad when I was in the upper grades of elementary school. He began to obsessively use his phone, even during meals, keeping it close at all times. It was too late to be just work-related calls, and the look on his face when he received messages was disturbing. He would always check his phone when my mom wasn't looking, and he'd smirk while replying. Although he never showed such behavior before, recently, he doesn't even try to hide it. He must have known my mom was obsessed with him. Out of curiosity, I peeked at his phone and found a series of messages with unknown women, arranging secret meetings and nightly rendezvous. Seeing that, I felt utter contempt for him. I was filled with hatred for him, who took advantage of my mom's feelings and played with her.
Your mom's a fool too, right? A man like my dad wouldn't settle for a woman like her.
Lauren had noticed his behavior. She knew why my stepdad married my mom and made a shocking statement to me.
My dad married your mom because he wanted a convenient woman. Your mom is a great cook and good at housework. For a man like my dad, who isn't struggling financially, it's perfect. She takes care of the kids and gives him his own time. It's a win-win situation. She was used and manipulated for that reason alone.
Listening to Lauren mockingly laugh, I felt a surge of anger. My mom respected my stepdad and worked hard at cooking to gain his approval. I supported my mom's efforts and wanted her to be happy. This dad and daughter duo trampled and toyed with my mom's feelings. I couldn't forgive them. I told my mom about it, but she was probably brainwashed by my stepdad. She didn't listen to me at all. In fact, my mom yelled at me, saying it was terrible to talk about my stepdad like that. After that, I gave up trying to convince her. There was no one in this house who cared about me. I felt like I had no place here. My life took a turn when I decided to go to high school. I heard that a close friend was going to a high school in New York. She planned to move there and look for a job afterward. The moment I heard that, I decided to move to New York too. I left home. I entered a high school student dormitory and started working part-time job after school. That's where I met Justin. Justin had great communication skills and was very popular at the part-time job. He was efficient at work and liked by both men and women, a real leader. He was admired by older women, perhaps because he was a little careless. We grew closer at the Christmas party at the workplace. We ended up sitting next to each other and discovered we liked the same music band. From there, we hit it off and started hanging out outside of work. Gradually, we became closer and naturally started dating. I got married on my 25th birthday. We started living together and had a happy life until that day when Lauren visited our home.
Long time no see. I moved here too, so I thought I'd drop by.
Lauren had left her parents' house and moved to New York, just like I did. I couldn't hide my surprise at Lauren's unexpected move. Why are you here, Lauren? Weren't you supposed to have a job back there?
Salaries don't increase much there, and I've always dreamed of living in the city, so I took the plunge and moved.
I knew that was a lie. Lauren wouldn't move here for such a reason. There must be something more. I suspected her, but time passed without me knowing her true intentions.
Hi there. I came over again today.
It's been 5 years since Lauren moved to New York. She started hanging out at our house all the time. The reason was Justin. Lauren began to show interest in Justin around this time. Justin works at a construction company and has weekends off, so Lauren visited our house every weekend. Since she works for a subcontractor of Justin's company, she knows his days off. Claiming she had no friends in New York, she frequently came over to our house.
Hey, Lauren, you're here again today.
Hi, Justin. Yeah, I just came by again.
With a playful tone, Lauren quickly sidled up next to Justin. She took her usual spot beside him and looked at me with a triumphant smile. That smile made my anger boil, and Justin only made it worse.
Come over anytime. It's lonely with just Nancy and me. I'm glad you visit us, Lauren.
Justin, clearly pleased, stretched out his nose. His gaze lingered not on her eyes but on her chest, which made me feel disgusted. Lauren noticed Justin's gaze and, using her body, linked her arm with his, pressing her chest against him. How many times had I seen this scene? Even when I told them this wasn't a hostess bar, they wouldn't listen.
Are you going through menopause or something? You always get so cranky when Lauren comes over. Stop it, you're just being unfair to her.
Justin is so kind. I might start to like him. But don't worry, Nancy is just jealous because she sees how well you treat me. We're not in that kind of relationship.
Nodding in agreement, they exchanged glances. I couldn't believe Lauren's words. Lauren always had a habit of taking what was mine. She would cause a fuss when I got a new toy, making her parents miserable. In middle school, she got jealous if her friends and I got close, driving them away from me. Lauren always felt inferior and tried to take whatever I had. She started coming to our house every weekend. It made me anxious. And it was around that time Justin began carrying his phone with him everywhere, even taking it to the bathroom, just like my stepdad did. I instinctively felt he was cheating. That thought crossed my mind. However, I couldn't find the time to investigate the truth. The reason was my mother-in-law, Julie's caregiving. Justin had asked me to take care of Julie in between my work shifts.
Mom's waiting for a spot in a nursing home. Until we find a place for her, you need to take care of her.
Why me? Have you forgotten all the things Julie has said to me? Julie and I didn't get along very well. When we first got married, things were okay, but Julie was quite meddlesome and often visited our home. Since my father-in-law had passed away early, she must have been lonely. As a result, Julie and Lauren interacted frequently. The two of them would bond and get excited in front of me while I cooked meals and didn't get any personal time. The exhausting life became too much, and I asked Justin to reduce Julie's visits. When Justin conveyed this to Julie, our relationship soured. Julie started berating me, saying she was worried and checking in on us.
How could you be so ungrateful? I'm doing this out of concern for you.
Hearing Julie's patronizing words, I realized it would be difficult to have a good relationship with her, and I began to avoid her. After treating me like that, now you expect me to take care of Julie. Do you really think I can do it happily?
So, you're just going to abandon my mom? I'm out working from morning till night, and I'm the primary breadwinner here, right? If you're going to be so selfish and neglect my mom, then you should earn as much as I do. Then I'll quit my job and take care of her myself.
I had no response. Even though I work from home, my monthly earnings are just under $2,000. Meanwhile, Justin earns over $3,500 after taxes. It would be hard to match his salary with my current job. Plus, I do have more time available. With no words to argue, I reluctantly agreed to take care of Julie. And so, I found myself juggling work and caregiving. This life turned out to be a nightmare. Julie needed physical assistance and had mild dementia. She needed prompts for everything, and sudden changes upset her, leading to frequent tantrums. She remembered the past well, so she would yell at me whenever she saw me, demanding Lauren instead of me.
If only a caring daughter-in-law like Lauren had come instead of someone as heartless as you. You repay kindness with cruelty and still show up with a straight face.
Each time she said that, it left deep wounds in my heart. I can't count how many times I felt hatred toward Julie. But there were also moments when she showed gratitude. She would cry and apologize for her outbursts, and sometimes she calmly explained why she had visited us so often.
Justin has always had a habit of trying to please everyone. He seemed happy with you, but you two didn't have kids. I was worried he might turn to another woman, so I kept an eye on him. I was glad when you and Justin got married. I wanted to protect your happiness.
Julie's words, "You don't understand how I feel," echoed in my mind. The moment I understood her words, tears flowed uncontrollably. Julie visited our home to stop him from straying. She wasn't worried about Justin, she was worried about me. I hadn't realized Julie's kindness and had neglected her. I deeply regretted that, and from then on, even when Julie mentioned Lauren, I chose to endure out of guilt. But then, tragedy struck unexpectedly.
Lauren is pregnant. Let's get divorced.
Justin had gotten Lauren pregnant. It turned out they had indeed developed a romantic relationship. I felt calm, thinking it was exactly as I had expected, rather than being shocked. What do you mean?
Just what I said. Lauren is pregnant. I have to acknowledge the child as the father and take responsibility by marrying her. Otherwise, Lauren and the baby would be pitiful, right?
Pitiful? Justin's words filled me with hatred. He worried about Lauren and the baby, but didn't care about me at all. Even though I was his wife, he saw me as an obstacle.
It would be sad and pitiful for the child not to have a father. Luckily, we don't have kids, so there's no problem if we divorce, right? You can live on your own income. Our love had already faded, hadn't it?
As Justin spoke, laughing, I snapped and pulled out the divorce papers from the living room drawer. When we got married, we had a huge fight over our differing values. That's when Justin brought the divorce papers. Both of our signatures were already on it. All that was left was to submit it to the office. Even though we reached that point, we calmed down and decided not to divorce after talking it through. I kept the divorce papers just in case something happened. Here's the divorce papers. I'm quitting caregiving. When I showed him the papers, Justin smirked. He probably thought he could finally be happy with Lauren and be free from this nightmare. But life isn't that simple. When I immediately said I was done with caregiving, he frowned in confusion.
What? You still need to take care of my mom.
Justin was startled by my sudden declaration to stop caregiving. He hurriedly interrupted, looking at me as if to say, "Wait a minute. Why, we're not even married anymore, so I have no obligation to take care of Julie."
You owe her. Are you not going to repay that debt?
Justin's irritation grew as he repeated words about debt without understanding what Julie really meant. You didn't even know why Julie did what she did, so stop pretending you do.
What did you say?
This wouldn't have happened if you had been responsible. Do you even realize how reckless and careless your actions have been, cheating and behaving so shamelessly? My blunt honesty must have irritated him. Justin began to raise his voice.
It's your fault for not being able to have kids. You couldn't satisfy me as a woman, and a lowlife like you has no right to complain about my cheating. You didn't even try to improve yourself.
No matter what I said, Justin would respond with nonsensical arguments. His behavior was so appalling that I couldn't help but sigh.
You couldn't satisfy me as a woman, so the least you can do is continue caregiving. Lauren and I have jobs, and soon a baby. We can't take care of my mom. Isn't Lauren your sister? Don't you feel any obligation to help her out now that she's having a baby?
No way, because Lauren is. Justin was determined to make me do the caregiving. But I revealed a shocking truth to him. She's not my real sister or anything, just a stranger. Why should I waste my precious time on someone like that?
What?
It was the first time he heard about my family situation. Justin looked confused by what I said. My mom and dad remarried. Both had kids from previous marriages. So Lauren and I are not related by blood. And they divorced last month after Lauren's dad's affair was discovered and my mom left the house. Just as my mom asked me to live with her, your request for a divorce came at the perfect time. I knew about you and Lauren cheating, and I was about to bring it up myself. It was shocking enough for him to learn Lauren wasn't my real sister, but he didn't expect that I knew about their affair. Justin's dumbfounded face was so ridiculous that I almost burst out laughing. By the way, Lauren's dad is a real piece of work. He can't stand it if the house isn't spotless every day, and he thinks anyone who doesn't respect the eldest family member is trash. He'd get furious if anyone started eating before he did. Living at home was suffocating. I hated it so much that I left home when I was in high school just to get away from that family. Hearing the unexpected details, Justin's face turned pale. Realizing he had fallen right into Lauren's trap, he suddenly became anxious about the future. His reaction was so amusing that I couldn't help but laugh. Well, congratulations on the divorce. You were planning to live with Lauren and her dad after divorcing me, right? I'm sure your future will be so happy now.
How do you know that?
He could understand me guessing about living with Lauren, but he was puzzled by how I knew about her dad. The answer was simple. I had thoroughly investigated the two of them. I used my savings to hire a private investigator and asked them to look into Justin and Lauren. They also looked into Lauren's dad. It turned out that Justin and Lauren were planning to live with her dad. Not knowing what kind of person Lauren's dad was, Justin agreed to live with him to stay in Lauren's good graces. But this was a huge mistake for him. Lauren pushed Justin into this because she wasn't confident about living alone with her dad. She knew it. She knew her dad was an incredibly difficult person. Why do you think? Figure it out yourself. Oh wait, you can't. If you had any brains, you wouldn't have agreed to such a ridiculous arrangement.
You bastard.
Justin, filled with anger at my taunting words, looked like he was about to raise his fist. I quickly pulled out my phone and pointed the camera at him. Go ahead, hit me if you want. I'll just take this evidence to the police. Then what will happen to your plans to marry Lauren? What will her dad say? And think about the Pua kid. If they find out their dad is a criminal, they might get bullied at school.
Damn it.
Justin had no guts. As soon as he heard police, he backed down, glaring at me with frustration. Let me tell you something else, Justin. My mom is divorcing my stepdad because of his affair. He has to pay a huge amount in alimony, and you're going to have to pay alimony too, which means you'll be living in poverty. And with a baby on the way, Even if you make more than average, this is going to be tough. I told him this with a mocking smile, and his face turned pale. He held his head, realizing how foolish his thinking had been. By the way, Lauren will also be paying alimony.
Holy shit.
He was stunned when I added that. Of course, it's not going to end with just one of you. An unmarried person took a husband from a married woman. Even if we were once family, I wouldn't let this slide. It baffled me how he thought only he would have to pay and everything would be fine. I've suffered a lot because of Lauren, so I'll make sure to collect what I'm owed. From now on, you'll have to take care of Julie, Lauren's dad, and Lauren herself. You'll be busy paying alimony for all three of them. What a hellish life. I would never want that. It would have been smarter to beg Lauren to give up and live with me instead. Hearing this, Justin probably thought I would help if he apologized. He ran over to me on the verge of tears and started to beg.
Please, can't you do something? I didn't think it would turn out like this.
Realizing his foolishness, Justin desperately tried to get me to reconsider the divorce. But that wouldn't work on me. I had lost all affection for Justin a long time ago. Can you give up already? I can't stand the sight of you anymore. I'm so happy to finally be free from you. Thanks to your shameless behavior, I can even ask for more alimony. I couldn't be more grateful. I'm finally free, and I'm filled with a sense of liberation. As I spread my arms to celebrate this happiness, Justin, refusing to give up, grabbed the hem of my pants and begged.
Please, don't say that. Reconsider. Otherwise, I'll be living in hell from now on.
That's not my problem. I coldly dismissed him. When I was suffering, he only cared about himself and never considered my feelings. The resentment and hurt from those times would never fade. I would never let it be forgotten. My eyes must have shown that determination. Seeing my expression, Justin faltered and backed away from me. Whatever you do or whatever happens to you is none of my concern. You brought this on yourself. Don't ask me for help. Just talking to you raises my stress levels. I hate seeing your face and even breathing the same air as you. Do you understand? If I could erase my memories and get rid of every moment with you, I would. Now, can you leave? The title of this house is still in my name. With that, I gathered Justin's things and threw them towards the front door. This house where we currently lived was something I got through my cousin, a real estate agent, who helped me get a good deal right after I started working. Since Justin was also looking for a place to live, he didn't oppose me signing the lease, and he moved into my house, starting our cohabitation. That eventually led to marriage.
You've got to be kidding me. You're acting like this after everything I've done for you. This is your fault for not treating me right.
When he threw his belongings, he must have been really annoyed. Despite being filmed by my phone's camera, he raised his fist at me. At that moment, the front door unlocked, and to my surprise, a detective and my mom came to my rescue.
That's enough, Justin.
Get away from Nancy.
Jesus Christ. Wait, who are you?
Immediately, the detective restrained Justin. Justin, being slimmer than average, was no match for the well-built detective who held him firmly, preventing any movement. My mom hugged me protectively, glaring at Justin with sharp eyes.
I'm a private investigator hired by Nancy. I've been recording everything with hidden cameras, and this footage will serve as evidence.
Hearing the word camera, Justin regained some composure, but his face turned pale with despair. Since I didn't fully trust my phone's camera, I had the detectives set up hidden cameras beforehand. Now, I had all the evidence of Justin's abusive behavior, with witnesses to back it up. Justin's life was completely ruined, and he realized it, falling silent.
Your actions just now constitute assault. If you don't want to make things worse, take your stuff and leave quietly. You don't have a chance of winning this.
Hearing the detective's words, Justin stopped resisting.
Nancy, I'm really sorry. I was wrong. This was all my fault. Please, give me one more chance.
Enough. Although he stopped resisting, his desire for forgiveness hadn't disappeared. Justin, with tears in his eyes, begged me for another chance. But I delivered the final blow. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. That's why I had you sign the divorce papers. You were the one who wanted the divorce, so don't start whining now. You chose to abandon me for your pleasures. It's too late for regrets. I have no lingering feelings for you, no affection. I feel nothing. Now get out. My lawyer will handle any further communication. This was the first time I had spoken so clearly to Justin. Seeing my cold demeanor, he finally gave up, gathered his things, and left. And so, I was freed from years of bondage, truly liberated. I immediately contacted the lawyer the detective recommended and filed the divorce papers. With ample evidence and Justin's outrageous behavior during our talks, I was awarded nearly $80,000 in alimony.
You've got to be kidding. Why should I have to pay such an amount? We were family. How can you demand money from your sister?
When I told Lauren about the alimony, she predictably exploded with anger. Her dad, standing beside her, joined in attacking me. But I had my lawyer present, who logically cornered them both.
You were sisters, not by blood, and while you flaunt that relationship, you took your sister's husband. That's a grave offense and not something excusable just because you're family. You destroyed a family.
Lauren couldn't respond to the lawyer's argument. I took the opportunity to express my long-held resentment. I will never forgive you for what you've done to me, even more than Justin. I'll make sure you pay for everything just like you did to me. Be prepared. Don't think you'll get away with just paying money. Without getting emotional, I delivered the words with a cold gaze and tone, causing a shiver to run through Lauren. She trembled with fear. I asked my lawyer to pursue the matter to the fullest extent. Thanks to him, Lauren was charged $50,000 in alimony. As a result, Lauren and Justin were now burdened with nearly $200,000 in debt. My mom's claim against her ex-husband also exceeded $50,000, plunging them into a hell of debt. But that wasn't the end of it. Another shocking revelation came to light. The child Lauren was carrying wasn't Justin's. It turned out that Lauren had been seeing another man while she was with Justin. The child Lauren was carrying was actually fathered by another man, not Justin. That man happened to be a junior colleague at Justin's company. The junior colleague, knowing about Lauren's infidelity, refused to acknowledge the child. When he heard about Lauren's plan to remarry Justin, he exposed her misdeeds within the company. Both Justin and Lauren were fired from their jobs, shunned by acquaintances, and divorced just 1 month after remarrying. Lauren ended up having to pay alimony to Justin, leading to her financial ruin. They now work day-to-day jobs to pay off their debts. Since then, I've been living with my mom.
The moment I left him, I vowed to protect you, Nancy.
My mom actually helped me with hiring the detective. Her support gave me the courage to divorce Justin and face him head-on.
From now on, no matter what happens, I'm on your side.
My mom supported me just as she had promised. After the divorce, I used my computer skills to start an online business. Working from home, I created a community for people who couldn't attend school, providing an online environment similar to a free school. I developed curricula to support the education of kids who couldn't go to school and taught them the necessary computer skills they would need in the future. I went through a lot of pain without having anyone to talk to. I don't want young people to experience the same thing. I said in a magazine interview, these words caught the attention of many people, and now I receive numerous interview requests from TV stations. Thanks to this exposure, my business has flourished. I've received words of gratitude from many families who use our services. Encouraged by these words, I plan to continue creating safe spaces where I can help others.
The kid's mom is infertile and old. The kid must be disabled anyway.
I ran into my ex-husband by chance, 4 years after our divorce. He was walking in front of the station, arm in arm, with a young woman. I never wanted to see him again, but it couldn't be helped. There I was, unable to run away, holding my 3-year-old son's hand.
Is that kid mine? I told you not to have it.
It's none of your business anymore, is it?
Sure. I have no intention of acknowledging him. Just don't bother me.
He's just the worst kind of man. Deep down, I'm so glad I left him. But the woman next to my ex has been acting strange this whole time. Her face is pale, and her lips are trembling. She's frightened. Is that your child? She muttered. Who could have imagined the turmoil my son and I were about to be drawn into? My name is Natalie, a 46-year-old office worker. Now, it's just me and my 3-year-old son Max living together. He was born when I was 43, through a pregnancy at an advanced age, but he's growing up healthy and strong, which makes me incredibly happy. I often think to myself how glad I am to have had him. When the biological father found out I was pregnant, he told me to get an abortion. Those were truly tough and painful days. I was reminiscing about those hellish days. After graduating from college, I got a job at a company and worked as the CEO's secretary. I hate to toot my own horn, but I was good at being considerate, and the CEO valued me highly. During that time, I met the CEO's son, Ethan. I caught Ethan's eye.
Natalie, it was love at first sight. Please marry me.
Ethan, raised in a privileged environment, had his unreliable moments, but that only tickled my maternal instincts, and I agreed to marry him. Since I was already favored by Ethan's father, the CEO, he quickly approved of our marriage.
Marrying a reliable person like Natalie will surely settle Ethan down. I'm really glad. Natalie, please take care of him.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear you say that. Ethan wanted me to support him at home, so I quit my job and became a full-time homemaker.
I'm the eldest son. so I plan to take over my father's company in the future. Please support me.
Understood. I'll support you with all I've got. My in-laws were very kind, and we had a harmonious relationship, so I started living with them right after getting married. However, my mill was frail and needed care, which was unfortunate. My Phil was very kind to her, always speaking to her gently, and we wanted to be a couple like them. But that dream was not to be. My Phil was a very wealthy man, and we had an elderly live-in helper named Grace. Grace and I took care of my mill and the household chores. Grace was a good person, and we lived together, helping each other out like a real family.
Natalie, thank you always. I only had a son, so having you feels like having a real daughter, and it makes me happy.
Thank you. I lost my parents early, so being treated kindly by you and my in-laws makes me feel grateful to be part of this family. My parents died early in an accident, so I was raised by my grandparents. My grandparents passed away as if they were waiting for me to find a job, so I was truly grateful to have met my in-laws. My married life was smooth sailing, but my husband's business affairs were not going so well. Though my husband intended to take over the company, his father felt Ethan was not up to the task in terms of management. As a result, my Phil was quite strict in his guidance towards Ethan.
My dad never trusts me. He refuses to retire. As long as he's active, I can't become the president.
My husband complained discontentedly. A few years later, ominous clouds began to gather over my marriage. Even after 5 years of marriage, we were unable to have children. Ethan blamed me.
Why can't you have kids? All my friends had kids right after getting married. It's embarrassing that I'm the only one without kids.
That's not fair. It's wrong to just decide it's my fault.
There's no way the problem is with me. It has to be your fault.
The conversation was futile. He baselessly decided that the infertility was my fault. While my husband was like this, my in-laws never pressured us about having children. I could tell they were considerate of me. They must have wanted to see their grandchildren too. Linda, I'm sorry we haven't been able to give you a grandchild yet.
What are you talking about? It's not your fault, Natalie.
That's right. Children are a blessing, and it's okay if we don't have them.
We're just happy to have you with us, Natalie.
My in-law said this, but I wanted children too, and I wanted to give them grandchildren, so I started considering infertility treatment. However, my husband was not very enthusiastic about it, but I insisted, and he accompanied me to the hospital for an examination. The results showed that I had a condition that made my fallopian tubes prone to blockage, making it difficult for me to conceive.
See? I knew the problem was with you. I regret marrying you. It's like I drew the short straw. This is so frustrating.
My husband blamed me as if he had been proven right, but it was also found that he had a condition that made it difficult to conceive. His sperm count was low, and their motility was poor.
What? No way.
However, the doctor said it wasn't entirely impossible, so we were advised to continue treatment. I wanted to continue the treatment, but my husband was against it.
I don't want to undergo such treatment. It's not like it's impossible for us to have kids.
More than 10 years passed, and we remained childless. My husband had stopped saying he wanted children. Although my relationship with my in-laws was good, my relationship with my husband had become strained. He started coming home late at night, often after drinking, and his work was fraught with failures. He was frequently scolded by his father, the president, and was always in a bad mood.
It's your fault for not supporting me as my wife.
He would lash out at me like that. Then, at the age of 43, I miraculously became pregnant. I was so happy and relieved that the difficult infertility treatment had paid off, I couldn't help but cry. I thought he would be happy, so I told my husband, but his reaction was unexpected. Good news. Happy for you. I'm pregnant.
Bringing this up now. What am I supposed to say?
What? Aren't you happy?
Do you even realize how old you are? You're a 43-year-old woman. Don't you know there are risks with late pregnancies?
What do you mean?
It means the child could have disabilities. I want you to get an abortion.
What?
I've decided to marry a younger woman who doesn't have these risks. Let's get a divorce. I'll give you alimony.
How could he say such a thing? I felt like I had been thrown from heaven to hell. Unable to bear it, I decided to pack my things and leave the house. But first, I had to say goodbye to my in-laws. They were shocked by the sudden news. They asked me to stay and have the grandchild here, but living with my husband had become unbearable. Ignoring my in-laws' pleas, I left the house. After receiving the alimony, I signed the divorce papers, changed my phone number, and cut ties with my in-laws. I heard my husband planned to remarry the new secretary his father had hired. It's a trivial matter now, but it seems my husband has a thing for secretaries. It would probably be uncomfortable for his new partner if I were around. I gave birth to my baby on my own. It was a beautiful baby boy. Raising a child alone was challenging, but my son was irreplaceably precious to me. One day, when my son was 3 years old, I unexpectedly ran into my ex-husband in front of the station.
Isn't that Natalie?
Hearing a familiar voice, I had a bad feeling. I gripped my son Max's hand tightly. Seeing Max, my ex laughed and said,
Given the IVF and your age, the kid's probably got problems, huh?
My ex was walking arm in arm with a young woman. Could she be his new wife? I never wanted to see him again, but it couldn't be helped. There I was, unable to run away, holding my 3-year-old son's hand.
Is that kid mine? I told you not to have him.
It's none of your business anymore, is it?
Sure. I have no intention of acknowledging him. Just don't bother me.
He was an awful man, and deep down, I'm so glad I left him. But the woman next to my ex had been acting strange the whole time. Her face pale, her lips trembling. She's frightened. Is that your child? She muttered. She was whispering something into my ex-husband's ear. I couldn't hear well because her voice was so low, but I faintly caught the words, "Your father's estate is..."
Huh?
Ethan widened his eyes like saucers and stared intently at my son. Then he glared at me and yelled,
You're a stranger to me now. Don't you dare come near my family's home, ever.
And with that, the two of them ran off as if they were fleeing from me. What in the world was it about? I couldn't make heads or tails of it. But being told to stay away made me think there must be some secret at my in-laws' place. Curious about my ex and that woman's reactions, I found myself heading to my in-laws' home for the first time in 4 years. The helper, Grace, greeted me with tears in her eyes, saying, "It's been so long, madam. I'm so glad to see you." My Mill had passed away 2 years ago, and my Phil was bedridden due to illness. Seeing me, my Phil was overjoyed despite his frail condition. But he looked haggard and pale and sick.
You've come at last, Natalie. I've been looking for you everywhere.
David, it's been a while. I'm sorry for not visiting sooner.
And who is this boy?
This is Max. He's 3 years old now.
So, you had Ethan's child.
I nodded firmly. My Phil tenderly stroked Max's head with a look of affection. He then handed me a business card, urging me to visit a lawyer. The lawyer was a close friend of my Phil. Following my father-in-law's advice, I visited the lawyer and was shocked by the startling truth he revealed. 2 months later, I received a call from Grace, the household helper, informing me of my father-in-law's passing. She also shared some intriguing news with me. 3 days later, dressed in mourning clothes, and with my son by my side, I headed to the funeral service. The ceremony had already started, with my ex-husband delivering the eulogy. The young woman I had met previously was standing close by him.
My father may have passed away, but I will be taking over the company and protecting it firmly, along with Molly, my father's secretary. We will also build our family together, so I ask for your support.
He spoke without shedding a tear, delivering his speech with gusto. During the eulogy, Ethan noticed me and my son and shouted in surprise,
Natalie, what are you doing here? Get out. This place isn't for you.
Ethan ordered his employee to drag me out of the funeral hall. I was upset at how rudely my own son was being treated, even though I had Max with me, but I couldn't resist when several men started pulling at my arms. The mourners were shocked by the commotion, looking at us with a buzz of whispers.
Please, everyone, be quiet.
The person who stopped the commotion. It was a lawyer who had been of service to my Phil for many years.
There is a will that the late president asked to be announced at his funeral.
Stop it. There's no need to say it. I, his only son, will inherit everything.
Ethan tried to stop him, but the lawyer ignored him and began reading the will. The contents were shocking. The company was to be left to the vice president, who had worked hand in hand with the president to grow the company. As for his son Ethan, lacking in managerial talent, he was advised to work under the vice president. His estate was to be left entirely to the child born to his ex-wife, me, if there was one, appointing me as the guardian. I was not surprised, as the lawyer had informed me of everything in advance, but the mourners were in an uproar. Ethan's fiancée bit her lip, her eyes darting around in confusion. She was working as a secretary to my Phil, so it seems that she knew the contents of the will by some means. So when she first saw Max, she was shocked because she thought Max would take away the inheritance.
What about my position then?
People going to jail don't have a position to worry about.
What? What are you talking about?
I know why your dad suddenly fell ill. Ethan looked at me, his face turning pale, glaring at me as if he saw a demon. In fact, I had heard from the helper, Grace. She saw Ethan and his fiancée Molly putting flowers in my father-in-law's food. Grace found it suspicious and secretly took photos with her cell phone. I got those photos from Grace, and after researching online, discovered that the flower is highly toxic. It's a common flower, but both its stem and root are poisonous, and even drinking water from a vase with this flower can be lethal.
That's a lie. You made this up.
There's photographic evidence and a witness, so there's no escaping it. Ethan, cornered, was desperately thinking of a way out. Then he began to shout.
It's not my fault. It was Molly. She instigated everything.
He tried to shift the blame onto his fiancée Molly. Molly panicked.
You were the one who said we couldn't become the president until your father was gone and asked for my cooperation.
You said you overheard Dad and the lawyer discussing leaving the estate to Natalie's son, which is why I felt I had no choice but to do what I did to Dad. It's your fault.
How dare you blame me? You were the one who brought the poisonous flowers, not me.
Both of them ended up confessing everything. They effectively admitted their guilt in front of all the mourners. Ethan, in a complete about face, began apologizing to me.
Natalie, I'm so sorry. Please, tell everyone this was all a lie. My life is over if the police get involved. I beg you.
It's too late for that. I've already submitted the evidence to the police. They should be arriving any minute now. Leaving behind a wailing Molly and a stunned ex-husband, I left the scene. I heard the sound of a police car approaching. I didn't want Max to witness any more of his father's disgrace. Subsequently, my husband and Molly were taken away by the police. The crime of taking his father's life is serious, and he has no remorse, so it will take him many years to get out of the fence. With the inheritance left by my Phil, I bought a house in the suburbs where I now live with my son. Having witnessed my ex-husband blinded by greed to the extent of harming his own father, I am committed to living a modest life to ensure we don't fall into similar pitfalls. I continue to work as before, pouring love into raising my son. Just seeing my son grow up healthy and happy fills me with contentment, a sentiment that defines my current state of happiness. If you stop doing housework, you'll end up going senile, right? You're already such an idiot who forgets everything I say. You know, from now on, I'll just call you idiot.
My daughter-in-law, Holly, sneered at me as she said this. After suddenly suggesting we live together, Holly forced all the housework onto me and started making snide comments. Living with Holly was really taking a toll on me mentally. And it was not just her comments. She even betrayed my son, John, by cheating on him. I can't forgive her for betraying John. One day, I'll expose her true colors. I swore this to myself. Then, my chance finally came.
Ouch.
I heard a scream and rushed over to the stairs, only to find Holly collapsed at the bottom. I'll never get an opportunity like this again. Fueled by all my pent-up resentment toward her, I decided to get even. My name is Carol Smith, and I'm 82. My husband passed away 2 years ago, so I live alone. People often say, "Aren't you lonely living by yourself?" But that's not the case at all. I keep myself busy doing things I love, relaxing with my cat, Kitty. Actually, the stuffed animals I started making as my hobby have become quite popular, and now I even sell a few. Since they're handmade, I can't mass produce them, but I never have any downtime, so I'm always happily busy. Then one day, out of the blue, I got a call from my son. My son, John, works for a big corporation and is always busy. He's a kind, serious person, but with all his work, we haven't been in touch lately. I was surprised by his call, but also thrilled. I thought he was just calling to say hi, but he came out with something totally unexpected.
Mom, don't you think it's about time we live together?
We live together? Why, all of a sudden? I'm not senile yet, you know.
I'm not worried about that, but I thought living alone might be getting a bit hard for you.
There was some truth to what John was saying. The stairs I used to go up and down so easily started feeling harder to manage, and even a quick trip to the store was leaving me exhausted. It's only natural at my age, I thought, now that I'm over 80. But hearing John say it out loud, maybe living alone is getting tough. But Holly wouldn't want this, would she? Moving in together so suddenly. Holly is my son's wife. She's never been one for family gatherings, and when she did attend, she mostly sat quietly off to the side. I got the sense she didn't like me much, so honestly, I thought she'd turn down John's idea of living together. However, John was straightforward.
It's fine. Actually, it was Holly who suggested we move in together. She said that as only your son, I should start thinking more about family, and she even scolded me.
Holly really said that?
So if you're okay with it, Mom, let's live together.
I didn't really mind either way. My late husband was well off, and the house is quite spacious. We have more than enough rooms, so my son and his wife moving in wouldn't be an issue. And so, it was settled that they would move in. I started tidying up a bit, going up the stairs that I hadn't climbed in a while to clean out the rooms. It was quite tiring, as expected at my age, but I managed to get through it. As I was taking a break and enjoying some tea, John and Holly arrived.
Mom, we're staying with you from today on.
Of course, Holly, please feel at home.
Thank you.
Holly didn't even crack a smile, which puzzled me, but I showed them to their room in silence.
Oh, I need to head to the office for a bit. I'll be back late.
On a Sunday? That sounds rough.
There's a big project going on. See you later.
With that, John dropped off his bags and went off to work. Feeling a bit awkward at the idea of being alone with Holly, I thought I'd start preparing dinner.
What is this?
Is something wrong?
This place is covered in dust. Can't you clean properly?
She was pointing at the top of the dresser. it was a bit high, and as a shorter person, I hadn't been able to reach up there to dust. I couldn't reach that spot, so I hadn't cleaned it. Sorry, but could you do it yourself?
No, I'm busy unpacking, so you should do it.
Wait, what did you just say? The harshness of her words left me speechless. I hadn't felt much respect from her before, but this wasn't how you'd talk to a mother-in-law.
Why would someone like you need any respect?
Holly was looking at me as if I were trash. If you dislike me that much, then why did you suggest living together?
Oh, that. Well, this house is way nicer than an apartment, don't you think? It's much better here, though you're definitely in the way.
Seeing Holly reveal her true colors gave me a headache. I couldn't believe she was like this. If I had known, I would have refused to live together. But it was too late now, and I would come to regret this decision even more. Once we started living together, Holly completely neglected any household chores.
Is dinner ready yet?
I'm so sorry. Our neighbor dropped by, and I got caught up talking. I'll get on it now.
Hurry up, will you? You're so slow.
She treated me like a servant, lounging on the sofa, doing nothing but barking orders. Couldn't you at least help out a little?
Excuse me? I'm saying this for your sake. If you stop doing housework, you'll go senile, right? You're already a forgetful idiot. From now on, I'll just call you Dummy, all right?
With that, Holly laughed out loud. I wanted to talk to John about it, but he was often busy with work, sometimes not coming home until after midnight. I didn't want to bother him with my troubles when he was already so busy. So I told myself I'd just endure it. I'd bear with it as best I could. But Holly's behavior got worse with each passing day.
Hey, why did you put my skirt in the washing machine?
Well, I thought it needed washing since it was by the laundry basket.
Look at the care label next time. Are you seriously that dense?
She threw the skirt at me with full force. True, I should have checked the care label, and that was my fault. But if she's that picky, she could just do her own laundry. Since they moved in, the laundry piles up, and shopping trips are heavier and more exhausting. Even when I try to explain that these tasks are hard for me at my age, Holly glares at me and yells.
Oh, quit whining. Think of it as strength training, dummy.
Every day ends with her insulting me, no matter what I say. I was at my breaking point. When I felt down, Kitty, my cat, would quietly snuggle up to me. Her presence was my only comfort. She always stayed close, as if trying to console me. I'd hold Kitty close and quietly let my tears fall. Then one day, I witnessed something shocking. Holly returned home arm in arm with a young man I didn't recognize. They were talking intimately, standing close together. I was so surprised that I spoke up to Holly. Hey, Holly, who was that just now?
Oh, nobody. Just someone I know.
You seemed awfully close for just an acquaintance. You're married, you know, so keep a proper distance.
Oh, give it a rest. I don't need advice from you.
Her loud voice made me shrink back. But if she was cheating, I couldn't back down now. But if someone thought you were cheating, wouldn't that be a problem? What if there's a misunderstanding?
What if it's not a misunderstanding?
What? I looked at Holly, and she had a smirk on her face. What do you mean by not a misunderstanding?
Exactly what I said. You really are dumb. So what if I'm cheating?
There's no way that's okay. Cheating while you're married to John.
It's boring being with someone who's always working. He makes money though, so that part's fine.
I was stunned by Holly's words. Even though she cheated on John, she was still smiling. I was stunned by Holly's words. Cheating is absolutely unforgivable. I'm going to tell John.
Feel free. Like he'd believe anything a dummy like you says.
You don't know that.
Whatever an old lady like you says, I'll just tell him you're senile or seeing things. He'll believe me over you. Tough luck.
Holly laughed triumphantly. I was furious, but I couldn't find words to argue back. At over 80, there are plenty of people my age who have dementia. I knew she could make people believe that about me. Even though I believed I was still sharp, I did sometimes forget things. So whenever Holly brought up my age, I feared people might not believe me. But I knew I couldn't let things go on like this for John's sake. As I glared at Holly's back while she hummed and went up to the second floor, the sound of the TV caught my attention.
I suspected he was cheating, so I hired someone to investigate.
On TV, they were talking about cheating investigations. That's it. I quickly jotted down notes and picked up my smartphone. I promised myself that I'd teach Holly a lesson she wouldn't forget, showing her that underestimating an elderly woman could backfire. A month later, as I was preparing lunch in the kitchen, there was a loud, heavy thud from the staircase. I rushed over to find Holly lying at the bottom of the stairs.
Ouch.
She was clutching her arm and leg, wincing in pain. As I recalled, today she was supposed to be meeting up with her friend. So she had on a lovely dress and was fully made up.
Hey, old lady. Call an ambulance now.
Oh dear, what happened?
What do you mean, what happened? I fell down the stairs. Isn't it obvious?
It seemed she had slipped on her stockings and tumbled down the stairs. With sweat beading on her forehead from the pain, she glared at me, desperate. But an immobile Holly was hardly intimidating. I thought I should call an ambulance, but then a little mischievous idea popped into my head. After all the times she'd called me a fool, I decided to give her a taste of her own medicine. Oh dear, how awful. Can you stand? Shall I help you up?
Ouch. Stop it. What are you doing?
When I tried to pull her up, she screamed as she writhed in pain. I must have grabbed the spot where she'd hit herself. Oh, sorry about that. I didn't realize where it hurt.
Knock it off. Call the ambulance.
Oh, right. The ambulance. Now, where did I leave my phone? My phone was in my pocket, but I pretended to look around for it.
Why don't you have it? Here, use mine.
Oh, thank you. Oh, what's this password thing?
Just give it me. Here you go. I unlocked it, so call the ambulance.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Now, let's see. Oh dear, I accidentally sent a text. Let me call now. The pain must have been intense, as Holly kept yelling at me to hurry up. What's the emergency number again?
It's 911 for the ambulance. Are you really going senile?
Oh, right. 911. Hello, I need an ambulance, please. My daughter-in-law seems to have fallen while getting all excited about her date and took a tumble down the stairs.
You didn't have to say that part.
Holly's breathing grew heavy from the pain. Her leg was swelling up, turning bright red. It looked like a serious fracture. I've called the ambulance, so just hang in there a bit.
Oh, this is the absolute worst.
She muttered it and sighed. Just then, out of nowhere, Kitty crept over and settled herself right on Holly's swollen leg.
Ouch.
The pain that had started to subside flared up again, and Holly let out a loud scream. Kitty leaped off her leg and landed on my shoulder, looking almost proud. Oh, Kitty, did you want to play? Now's not the time, though, okay?
You stupid cat. Just wait until I'm better. I'll remember this.
You shouldn't take it so seriously with a cat. She probably didn't even realize you fell down the stairs. She's probably just wondering why you're lying there. Seeing Holly glare at me and Kitty in frustration gave me a sense of satisfaction. Soon enough, the ambulance arrived, and I rode with her to the hospital. Once we arrived, I called John. The test results showed that Holly had fractured 2 bones in her ankle. Her arm had a slight crack as well and was temporarily braced. The surgery for her leg was scheduled for the next day, so she was left in an awkward position with her right arm and right leg immobilized.
This is the worst. Hey, go grab me a drink from the shop.
I told Holly, deliberately wondering, as she gave me orders in front of the nurse. Oh, I didn't bring any money since I rushed over here.
What? You're useless. Just use your phone to pay and go get it.
Oh, that sounds complicated. I'm just a dumb old lady. I don't know how to use it.
Just go now. And don't come back until you have it.
With that shouted at me, I left the room. As I stepped out, a nurse approached me.
That was your daughter-in-law, right? Does she always talk to you like that? Isn't that a bit harsh?
The nurse's concern made me smile. Oh, don't worry. I'm just a silly old woman. I'll be waiting in the break room since I can't make it back from the gift shop. Just let me know if you need me. The nurse let out a hearty laugh, probably realizing I had no intention of going to the shop.
If you need anything, just come find us at the nurse's station,
she said, leaving with a nod. I thanked her and settled in to rest when John came rushing over.
Mom, I heard Holly got injured.
Yes, she did. She fell down the stairs, and it looks like she'll need surgery tomorrow for a broken bone.
I see. Do you know where her room is?
Of course. I nodded and led John to her room.
You're late, you old hag.
John's eyes widened as he froze, taking in her words. Holly, who hadn't expected John to come in instead of me, also froze, her mouth hanging open in shock.
John. No, It's not what it sounds like.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Holly asked me to go to the shop, but I didn't have any cash on me, and I don't understand how to use the phone to pay. Hearing this, John's brow furrowed.
Did you really say that to Mom? Just now?
No, I was just in pain and ended up yelling, that's all.
Holly was sweating nervously, desperately trying to deny it. Oh no, it's not her fault at all. I'm always so slow and clumsy. I probably just made her upset. Don't worry, it's just how things are.
How things are.
Don't just make stuff up.
Holly's face contorted with rage as she glared at me. John's face grew tense as he watched this exchange.
So you've been treating Mom like this all along?
No, this isn't.
All right, I'm done with this back and forth. Holly, stay quiet. I'll ask Mom directly.
Why don't you believe me?
Holly cried out, her face twisting in pain from the effort of faking tears.
Mom, has Holly been saying terrible things to you all this time?
Oh no, Holly hasn't said anything mean to me. Holly looked at me in astonishment, and I smiled back at her. It's my fault. I always ask for help with housework, which makes me lazy. Holly told me it's better for my health to keep active with chores, so she lets me do everything myself.
What?
I mean, I tend to use my age as an excuse to slack off. It's really my fault, and I appreciate Holly for being so strict and saying what I need to hear. Holly's face turned pale as she trembled, while John's face flushed red and his fists tightened.
You said you'd help out with the housework to support my elderly mom, didn't you? So what exactly have you been doing while leaving it all to her?
Well,
Unable to answer, Holly quivered as John held up his phone in front of her.
Have you been seeing this man?
The phone screen showed a photo of Holly and an unfamiliar man lying on a bed together. It was clearly suspicious.
How did you get that photo?
Oh, did I accidentally send that earlier when I was trying to call an ambulance? In the rush, I must have hit the wrong button. Holly glared at me with a furious, almost demonic expression.
You old hag.
Her reaction was practically a confession of her affair. Oh, there were quite a few photos with that man, actually. Would you like to take a look, John? Holly's phone is right here.
No. Stop. Don't look.
Ignoring Holly's protests, I unlocked her phone and handed it to John. He glared at Holly coldly.
You even had plans to meet him today, didn't you? That would explain the nicer than usual outfit.
No, you're misunderstanding. It's not an affair.
Then what's this message about? I want a divorce soon, and when I do, let's get married. You expect me to believe you aren't cheating with texts like these? Do you think I'm stupid?
Please, I'm sorry.
Half crying, Holly bowed her head, but it was too late to calm John's anger.
I can't stay with a woman who insults my mom and has an affair. It's over. We're getting divorced.
Wait, I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Be quiet. I don't even want to look at you.
I'd never seen John so furious before. As I watched in surprise, Holly turned to me, pleading.
Please, Carol. I'll do all the chores from now on. You'll need help in your old age, right? I'll take care of you, I swear. Please, let's continue living together.
So now you're trying to cozy up to Mom? After all the insults you threw at her?
No, I'm genuinely concerned for her. With how much you're away at work, John, how could you manage to care for her if we divorced?
That's
John hesitated. Seeing this, Holly gave a triumphant smile.
See? You only pretend to care about your mom, but work's all you think about. With me here, she'll be safe and taken care of. So won't you forgive me?
Holly looked up at me with pleading eyes. I smiled at Holly. Taking this as forgiveness, Holly visibly relaxed and smiled back. But with your hand and foot like that, how exactly do you plan to take care of me? Holly's smile froze on her face. Ignoring her, I continued speaking. Don't you mean I'd be the one taking care of you? It'd actually be easier without you around. The amount of laundry, groceries, and cooking would be much lighter, and honestly, a caregiver sounds like a better option than you.
What?
Holly looked devastated, holding her head in disbelief.
It's settled then. We're getting divorced. I'll bring your things to the hospital, so don't come back to the house.
Wait, what about the hospital paperwork, the surgery consent, and a guarantor?
Ask your lover for help.
John replied icily. Ignoring Holly's protests, we left the hospital together. In the end, John and Holly divorced. We packed all her things and delivered them to the hospital that very day, effectively kicking her out of the house. Later, John consulted a lawyer and filed a claim for compensation. As it turns out, I had hired an investigator I'd seen on TV a month earlier to look into Holly's affair. The results provided solid evidence, enabling John to claim substantial damages. The investigation revealed that Holly had been involved in this affair for quite some time, leading to a considerable claim for compensation. With the hospital fees and the cost of a new apartment, Holly also needed extra money, so she turned to her lover for support. However, her lover was also married and chose his family over her. Abandoned and left on her own, Holly now lives in a shabby apartment, taking on small tasks to make ends meet. Her leg fracture still limits her mobility, and she's struggling quite a bit, but that's not my concern. Afterward, I began a new life living with John. Perhaps still stung by Holly's hurtful words, John started wrapping up work earlier to join me for meals more often. Though I feel bad that he's adjusting his schedule, I'm grateful as a mother. Who knows what the future holds, but I want to cherish the time I have with my son.